la la. I love you like la 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 la.
Good afternoon, everybody. We've got a juicy topic for you today. We're going to be talking about investing on today's Real Estate Lab. Our host today is Crystal, and I'm going to pass it to her so we can go ahead and get started right away.
Welcome back, guys. Thank you for joining us today. We are going to be talking about investing in Austin. I'm going to be your host today, and my co-hosts are... Oh, wait, this way.
That way. Hey, everybody. I go by ianofAustin everywhere on the internet. Glad to have you. Let's go with below.
JJ Tolentino, Next Level Property Group, ready to talk about how to make some money.
I like it.
Hi, everybody. I'm Liberty Walker with Pure Realty.
Okay, so Austin is one of the hottest real estate markets in the nation. We know that. With the strong market, increasing population, and increasing job opportunities, it's attracting a lot of homeowners, especially investors, to the Lone Star State. And so today we're going to discuss why you should invest in Austin, where to invest, and then how to go about your investment. If you already have a property and don't know what to do with it, that's also something that we can discuss. So we have a lot of information for you guys. And so let's get started. So I guess first we're going to talk about the stats of Austin, and then we're going to start with sort of the job market. So I've read that employment is expected to increase 1.6%, and it increased last year by 3.3%. So that's something that is pretty good for Austin. And then unemployment is currently at 2.6%, which is still pretty low. We also have Amazon coming. Tesla is also coming, which means more jobs, which means more people are getting employed. Ian, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head as far as the demand being here. And I've talked about it a lot. And I think we've all talked about it a lot. Just the amount of jobs, thousands and thousands of jobs are coming here. You've still got the Kalahari. You've still got Dell, which is a very popular computer. And they own other things. They own other software. Apple, Google, Oracle. There are all these companies out here that they're growing and expanding, and there are no signs of slowing down. So I think that's important when we're considering investing in Austin.
Yeah,
I think that another thing that's not slowing down is that the real estate is appreciating so steadily upwards. So that's something that we've seen, and I can only assume will keep happening in the future. And also home prices, they've increased 5% since last year. We've looked at that in one of our market statistics episodes in the past. And then today I saw that what was really interesting is that 55% of households are renter occupied. So there are a lot of people renting. And so that means that there are a lot of renters that need homes. So if you are in the position to buy an investment property, you will have those occupancies.
Yeah, I think Austin's it's been a hot spot for a very, very long time. And it's more popular because of the jobs and the tech companies. And I've done research on the most resilient real estate markets and the industries. It revolves around tech. If you're a tech city like a San Francisco, you've been pretty solid at employment, at home appreciation, and that's pretty much what's going on in Austin.
And if you look at the home appreciation in San Francisco right now, that's all I'm going to say about that.
I think the median price point is like 1.5 or something, 1.7.
It's good. Yeah, it's up there.
That is wild.
So with the stats in mind, does anyone have an idea of like where someone could, buy or what to buy?
Well, I think that if we look at what's currently on the market today, today, this morning, I looked and there were 60 available properties that were duplexes. So maybe multifamily homes, there's not a lot of inventory. Maybe single family homes is the way to go. I don't know.
I love that you said that. I think just specifying, because there are all types of investors, right? If you have people that are looking to buy a single family home and rent that out. There are people that are looking to buy multi-unit. Maybe they have 2, 3, or 4 commercial investors. And then there's people that just buy their own house and they consider that their investment because it makes more sense to do that sometimes than put their money elsewhere. And so I think the types of investment is important consideration. So I'm going to ask that question. I'm going to throw that up there. I don't know how everybody feels about that. What do you think? I know it's one of those. What do you think?
I consider it an investment, especially since I bought my home 5 years ago. I can see, I had an appraisal done this year because I did a refinance, and I was like, whoa, made the right choice. So everybody should do the same thing.
Have you seen that for anybody else seen that for their clients? Like they bought a house, let's say 2, 3, 4 years ago, and they're trying to sell it, or they've done an evaluation. What have we seen? Or on the board?
Yeah, I've seen clients buy homes and like they have when they bought it and did their appraisal for their lender, like they bought it with like maybe 3 or 5K towards like equity already.
How about you, JJ?
I think there's a spectrum. I think if you buy your own house, you are putting your money towards something better from rental to ownership. So that's good. But then you have that investment spectrum, right? Like let's put Warren Buffett at the king of investors.
Sure.
After a home investment, I would consider somebody that's renting out rooms in their house, a more savvy investor. And then I'd start considering, somebody that is remodeling their house for equity, maybe even a little bit savvier. They're calculating the granite countertops are going to do this. And then if you start buying more properties, then you're getting closer to Warren Buffett. So yeah, I think it's good entry level, but like there's a lot more to play with real estate to be like investor. But yeah, I think you're investing your money, so it does make you an investor.
I love that point, because if you're a home buyer, I feel like you should consider some of those things as, does it have a 2-car garage? Is the garage converted? Like what if I decide to sell in 5 years? Like what is that going to mean for me?
Right.
Have any of you heard of this one guy that goes by the name of Dave Ramsey, I think it is?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So Dave Ramsey, I'm just kidding, obviously. How about who was the other one? Grant Cardone. You heard of him?
Yeah.
Yeah. So both of them, I think, kind of echo the same sentiment. They say that a house is not an investment until it's cash flowing. Until then, it's a debt. Now, there are a couple ways to look at that, because in my mind, if you're not paying your mortgage, you're paying someone else's, right? And that's another really popular quote. So if you're not paying your mortgage, you're paying someone else's. That means you're renting. Now, as long as you're able to, if you're paying someone else's mortgage, as long as you're taking any savings, any difference, and putting that toward another investment that's giving you a greater return, then you're probably in a good spot. So like an example would be if you're paying $500 a month for an apartment and you're taking the extra $1,000 or $1,500 a month that you would be spending toward a mortgage and you put it into, let's say, a stock, then that would be one good reason to not own. But otherwise, I think housing is a solid, stable investment.
Yeah, it's very long term, and again, I feel like I say this on every podcast. the path is in the math, you know, depending on X amount of money you put in, X amount of money return. You could see if it's in your equity in the house versus, let's say you're renting and you had that in the stock market. You could definitely play that game and see who's, because at the end of the day, it's net worth. Like, what's up with your net worth? And are you actively doing anything to invest for your net worth to go up?
Right. What are you doing to get, it's there's a baseline, and that baseline is $0.
Yeah.
And everything that you buy, you're either going down or up. And a house is going to be a huge chunk down in the beginning. Right? Like it's going to go whoop, because you're getting rid of savings or something.
Yeah, you got those closing costs. Yep.
How about this one?
I like that. I think that's worth talking about in the area. So
hold on, sorry. I was going to say Crystal was going to say something too. I didn't want to cut her off.
Oh, no, I was just reading the question.
Liberty, were you going to say something? Somebody was going to say something.
I think I was going to say what JJ was going to say, which is so many people are, you mentioned that, Tesla, Apple, all these companies, like people are moving here and they're going to continue to move here. And so swoop up the properties now while you still can, and then sell it back to them when they're in need. That's
a good point. Like I think we're all pretty confident that it's going to appreciate. I think that's something that we all kind of echoed. So
yeah, it also depends on what exactly do you want? Like what are you looking to, profit now or profit later?
Profit
sure.
first.
That's kind of what I wanted. That's kind of what I asked myself.
Yeah. Were you going to say something about this one, JJ? What's a deal? What do you consider a deal in investing?
Yeah, I'm curious to see what strategy. I think a lot of people might be listening. Like, what would they do? Maybe someone could speak on. I got 50,000, or maybe definitely entry level. Get a house in Austin that could work, and then maybe somebody has 100,000 or 200,000, or they're ready to sell a house. Do you see any strategies that you think make Austin or parts of Austin or the greater Austin area a spot or a strategy to do?
Sure. I've got thoughts. What do you ladies think?
Well, I was thinking like price points. Like you said, if you had $100,000 to invest, would you buy, a straight up $100,000, maybe a condo? Maybe that's all we could find, like a dilapidated trailer, and then try to salvage that and flip it or rent it out? Or would you get together with maybe some other investors and go into a higher price point for the better potential for the flip? Yeah, that's kind of where I think if you could get in at 350 at least, then there's a greater opportunity for return once the flip is flipped and sold.
Yeah, I think there's something there. So on one of our recent podcasts with the market update, what was the median price point roughly in the area?
372.
380 something.
Like high threes, maybe low fours.
It was high threes, low fours. Yeah, it was
low fours. So the way I look at it sometimes is if you get anything under there, like low threes, like 300 flat, there could be, if you could find something if you could get that 300 flat and it has that opportunity to sell for 400, and you could put enough in it, I like staying under the median price point, seeing that spread, working with the spread, seeing how much you have to throw in there, and then calculating the profit. So when you said 300s, that made me think of staying under the median and what areas are doing that there's a lot of pockets like that.
I think another way to look at it is, like, I know we've been talking about residential properties that are kind of already on land, but what about just land without, like, before building that house? For example, like when we talked about the last video, or I don't know, I guess the last two, we talked about buying land and then building on it, and then maybe you can profit off of that if you sell the home. Because I know a lot of investors who buy the land, hire builders and architects to build that house and then sell it.
What a lot of the conversations I've had with clients ends up being, land is so expensive. Right? Like just land by itself. So that's why here we end up having a lot of people that will buy, like Liberty said, a property that's not doing so hot, offer them a little more than what they feel they could get if they were to try to sell it online, and or maybe a little less even, and then turn that into like a really nice property or two. And because it takes cash to be able to do that. It does.
It has to have, it takes liquidated cash in hand.
Yes.
And you need to have someone walk the property with you before you just start willy-nilly making offers on things, because you need someone that can say, like, that's a foundation issue, that's a roof issue. Mm-hmm. At least with land, you kind of have an idea that you're going to be starting from the bottom up. But even then, like,
you gotta make sure there's like a system going on, like a septic, and you gotta make sure there's water, you gotta make sure there's an electric pole to have electricity.
So Crystal, because you're familiar with builds, I've had people do that exact thing, say, I want to buy some land, I just want to buy some raw land. And then I say, yeah, but do you realize that it's going to cost you a lot to turn it from raw land to almost improved lot? Can you give me an idea? Let's say an acre, just hypothetical. I know you can't hold anybody to these numbers, but like an average cost that people should think about if they're just buying an acre of raw land to get like utilities and things like that.
Cost, huh?
Just to improve, the lot. If anybody has
a lot, I would say a few grand, to be honest, because you have to hire people to
clearing trees,
chop off those trees, grade the land so that you can prep it for concrete, or for the foundation, and then just make sure that it's just there's a lot to it. So I would say a few grand.
What do you think, JJ or Liberty?
Yeah, I think this goes again on spectrums.
Yep.
There's that's a higher level. The barrier of entry to get into building, I think there's actually more investment opportunity for that level of an investor.
Okay.
But they really got to understand, like, hey, I'm going to go into this land, I'm going to carve it out, I'm going to put in utilities, and I'm estimating tens of thousands of dollars, maybe with the build, architectural renderings, things aren't even like really being there yet. And then you got to build out for, I think the percentage I've heard was 20% of the total investment is how much the land is.
Sure. And you know what? We can see that in the tax records for a property, right? We can see what the city or the county thinks that it's worth, right? And you're right, JJ. It's generally about 20% for an average size yard.
So let's say, I don't know.
So imagine, I saw a property downtown, or there's like a lot of empty, small little lots downtown that are like at 2 million already.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So imagine that just being 2%.
Yeah, well,
20%. 20%.
What people are paying for, when you're downtown or somewhere in close proximity to a place that people really want to be, that triple location thing, you're paying for what's called an opportunity cost, right? The opportunity to put something in that will end up cash flowing even more.
Right.
Or, if you were going to sell it, you're going to get even more of a cushion because of it, right? So that's why you can put a condo, 2 condos on that lot and then sell each one for $1 million when, really the land is only worth $200,000. If that. That's if that, But people will pay it because they realize the opportunity cost. They realize the appreciation. They realize the long tail 30-year, 50-year value. People aren't, true investors aren't playing with these small numbers. They're playing the longer game.
Yeah.
I think. How about rents? What do you think about rents? Like, does anybody, when you talk to your clients, do you talk about like what the rental prices are?
I do.
I do, because I work with people looking for leases and people who are buying. So I kind of know what things are going for rent wise, and rents are pretty high, but not, I don't know if they're high enough to justify the home sales price. That's always kind of like because if you're going to buy an investment property, I'm going to get my calculator out. Let's say you're going to buy an investment property for $400,000.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so monthly rent for that home, I'm thinking about Anderson Mill, because that's always where I think Anderson Mill. So let's say we're renting out maybe you could get $2,300.
Yep.
That's like at the top.
Yep.
So if you're doing the 2% rule, where you need 2% of the sales price to be equal to the monthly rent income, that's $8,000. That's not going to work, right? So I don't know how people are doing it. Or
they're not. It's tougher.
There are so many variables, right? Like when people are talking about these investments. So one, it's not only what is the mortgage payment on the house, but you also have to think, if you're paying down this mortgage, someone else, it's the equity improvement for the property plus the rental income. Right? So the rental income plus the equity improvement of the property. So if you're appreciating at 10% annually, and you're getting, 80% of the rent, that's the number that has to be added, right? Minus whatever your outgoing expenses are, which are generally repairs, maybe property management costs. And it worries me because people try to manage it themselves. And, I have no qualms against people doing that. But I think it gets tricky, especially if you have more than one property. Do you have any people that have done that, have said, oh, no, I'll manage it myself, and then end up calling you later, or calling someone saying, I need a property manager?
I have a few people I'm waiting to hear from.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the whole business.
Yeah.
It is. It's a whole business. So, and I'm just going to mention this for the people that are listening on Spotify, and then just anybody, right? The notion that a lot of realtors are not allowed or do not perform property management services because it's the number one profession. I think I'm correct with this. Number one profession that gets sued in the state of Texas. Licensed profession that gets sued in the state of Texas. Yeah, and so our E&O insurance would skyrocket if we were property managers. So I would gladly hand that off. I'll help somebody lease out a place, but then after that, I am done, because as soon as the contract comes to a close, realtors aren't part of the transaction. So, and I'm glad to not be.
So I guess a question for all you guys is, what are we seeing in Austin? Are we seeing more people who want to buy and sell, buy and hold, or like rent out?
I love that question. What are you seeing, JJ?
Investor-wise, I see a lot of investors, honestly, that they think they could find something. I've seen some 20% down buy and hold, breaking, or 30% down. 30% down is pretty solid. The way I look at Austin, it's kind of the greater Austin area on the fringes. You could do like a Leander. I've seen some like Hidden Lake, East Pflugerville stuff.
Yep. I like that you said 30%. Why did you say that? For anybody who doesn't know. JJ, you're frozen. No.
Is it to avoid PMI and?
Well, yeah, the cost. There's a cost to being able to invest. The lenders won't give you. Oh, we lost JJ. Sorry about that. Yeah, lenders. In order to get an investment loan, I believe it's 25% minimum to be able to have a second mortgage investment property.
Okay. And then that starts a whole nother conversation about like financing investment property.
It does. Hey, I got an idea I want to throw out. Here's what I heard. I was reading an article. They said, imagine you've got all these bars and business owners that are empty, bars that are empty downtown. What if they allowed people to just rent out that space and charge whatever the mortgage would have been for that? So if it's, let's say, a restaurant, and you could do some kind of commune, because there are apartments that do that, right? Like a group, like a hostel. That's right. Yeah, hostel situation where you have a group of people that rent it out, because you might have multiple rooms. So imagine if the restaurant owner just says, okay, yeah, let me rent this space out and charge whatever my mortgage or whatever my lease would have been for that, or mortgage if it's a property owner, in the commercial space. They said, why not do that? And I thought, I think that's genius. Right?
I would totally live in like a walk-in closet converted into that sounds like New York.
People are buying tiny homes. You know how much square footage is in a tiny home?
250?
Like less than four.
So in order to make it legally certifiable as a tiny home, it has to be 398 square feet or less. I think it's 400 square feet, but they do 398 or less to make sure that they can classify it as that, right? So, a restaurant, they've got a bunch of 400 square foot sections that they could create. And a lot of people, that's plenty of space for many people, many single people. I don't know about couples or pets and all that, but
I think that just goes to show you so many people need housing here. So many people are coming here. We're growing exponentially. Like,
think of what it would do for the homeless population.
Some of those tents they're creating look pretty cool. I'm like, I would rent that out for, $600 a month.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So you have a restaurant, let's say you can fit 20 people in this restaurant space, and each one of them is giving you $200 a month.
Are you gonna property manage that?
I'm not property managing anything. My E&O does not cover property management services. Thank you. No, thank you. All right. So that's funny.
Right. So let's see. I think JJ, are you back? Can you hear us?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
My connection.
So back to what you were saying about that 30%. What does that mean?
So to get in the game, we're talking about these rental rates. Like Anderson Mill, it's tough. There's the golden rule, like 1% rule. So yeah, you could get a little closer. You just have to leave Austin, because city of Austin's super hot. What I've seen, and again, this is depending on how you shop in, what you come across, who the seller is, maybe like a North Leander, East Pflugerville, 30% down. Then you could do a rent and hold, possibly cash flow, break even. That's some of the stuff I've seen if you want to do 30% and still have an opportunity to surf out appreciation. I think that could be a play or a deal for somebody out there. Californians, maybe, whoever.
Just a time check, FYI, we've got
Yeah. So I guess to close this out, I want to ask everybody to tell the viewers your number one investing tip that you would give to somebody.
Oh, I like that. Ladies first.
I would always say consider, if you could, do multifamily and then occupy one of the spots. So get a quad, get a duplex, and live in half of it. And that's what I would say is like the best golden opportunity for yourself.
You can leverage that as a primary residence. That's a really good tip. I love it.
For me, it's more numbers. Figure out what number you're looking for. Just figure out what number you're looking for.
What do you think, JJ?
I would say, kind of piggybacking off of Crystal a bit. So you got your number. I would say find your team as in one of us 4 real estate agents to help you walk through the process, including a property manager, because Ian's not going to property manage that for you.
Nope.
A CPA, a lender, an inspector, have all these people, a contractor, ready for you to run the numbers through. So the tip is build your team.
It's good.
A good one.
Ooh, I have one more that's real fast. I would just say real quick, strike while the iron's hot. Don't hesitate.
It's a good one. I think I'm going to say understand what the word investment means to you. And if it means a percentage of income or a percentage increase, what is that percentage and what's the best way for you to reach that? So let's say it's you want to have 10% growth on your investment, then you have to understand what that means and what conduit can get you there. Most of the time, there is a way real estate can get you there, but which method, whether it's a flip, whether it's a buy and hold, and over how long. These are the things that matter most when people are looking to invest in anything, but especially real estate in Austin.
Right. All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you guys next week.
Love it. Thank you all.
Bye-bye, everybody.